Hi, my name is Ben Williams, and I'd like to share a little bit about my experience with Math 618 from the online graduate school at the Citadel. I teach in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I teach at Cleveland High School. The courses I teach range from teaching freshmen to seniors, and it ranges from introductory STEM courses where I really target and try to target students' soft skills and interest level in the STEM field, all the way to senior level students that are doing internships in manufacturing and local advanced manufacturing industries. And so really I'm torn between two different directions. The first is advanced manufacturing, because we have such a rich and rapidly growing local industry community here in Cleveland, Tennessee. I believe we are one of the fastest growing in the nation as far as advanced manufacturing, and as a result, we have a lot of awesome local manufacturing industries that are wanting to work with us, work with our students, and get us in. And so it'd be crazy not to. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be working with industrial equipment, I would have laughed at you. I started as a special education teacher, and I have a special education undergrad from a local private Christian university, Lee University. And so to have been here 9 years later teaching STEM and advanced manufacturing, it has been quite a wild ride, but it's been one that I wouldn't do over. I wouldn't do 1 year over. So the other facet of my classes is student-led global design. This was something that kind of snuck up on us, but this is one that's really been driven by student interest and passion. And this has been something that's led us to tribal villages in Nicaragua, as well as working with the deaf in the mountains of Jamaica. So we've done 2 international design trips. Both of those have been incredibly needs-based, and they've included original solutions that our very own students here at Cleveland High School have designed, developed, and been able to implement overseas, which has been really cool to see as an instructor. I'm getting the goosies just talking about it. But when you put this in contrast with advanced manufacturing, which seems like a variety of very hard technical yes or no skills, and then you have a very human-centered, human experience-focused design process, it really has been an ongoing challenge for me to try to tie those two together. So that very long backstory kind of brings me to why my experience with Math 618 has been so fruitful this semester. Starting first with week 3's assignment, week 1 and week 2 we really get to know each other, the other students in the course, but then we also get to learn a little bit about our instructor as well, and the style of the course. And so, but week 3 was kind of the first week we really got to jump in and look at some content, and that led us to our IST standards. The IST standards for teachers, that is, I'm sorry. There's a set of standards for teachers, a set of standards for students. And I'm focusing on this one because these are 2 of the standards that stuck out and impacted me at the beginning of the semester that kind of became a constant theme as I went throughout the rest of my semester. That is the role of a teacher, number 5 as a designer, and number 6 as a facilitator. Now, starting as a special education teacher so long ago, I really got used to relishing in the fact that I got to work one-on-one with students, and I got to figure out what they were individually interested in, and I got to really take advantage of that to take the students farther into knowledge and farther into acquiring content that maybe they were too intimidated to take on or hadn't been able to learn in a traditional sense. And so these 2 really stuck out to me because they reminded me that that's still a place, not just as a co-teacher, but as a full-out general education classroom teacher with 35 students and 4 80-minute blocks a day doing a wide variety of different important work. That I can still kind of make an individualized and customized experience for my students. And so these really help me out. My role as a designer for my students' experiences in my course, and a facilitator that sometimes I don't just throw out and require them to do a set of handouts or worksheets, but that I actually get to facilitate and spin plates, if you will, to keep that learning process running for all my students. So another big part of the course was the method at which we could use technology just to be able to make sure that we can personalize and make a very unique way to personalize learning. I need to log into this computer over here. So what we have are our row of student computers here, in which I am very lucky to have the lab and facilities that I do. And I'll give you a quick tour of our fab lab here in a second. But I also wanted to share a little bit about some of my own assignments that I've been able to set up here at the school. In my Principles of Engineering course. A lot of these are videos that link to some reflection questions that we are going to go over in class. And the way that I've been able to use this is, instead of just kind of arranging assignments for them to break out in class and do a Blackboard assignment one and done while they're in class, is actually allowing them to watch, give them a day. They can watch it in class if they have time. They can watch it at home, but give them time to prepare for a class discussion, because I've really been able to have a much deeper level of student knowledge in the content, courses, and resources that we've covered, just by kind of front loading it online and really drawing them to that. And I think that was something from week 4. Right after our week 3 with those ISTE standards for educators. But in week 4, we were able to actually look at a now trending personalized learning article from author Michael Horn. And while in the past, when I've thought about personalized learning, I've kind of thought about finding a way to target student interest just by giving them choice and giving them some type of student buy-in. And that's kind of the project-based learning way. But the thing I really took away from that article was the fact that you can really use tangible tools of technology, like a learning management system like Blackboard, to really take students down and facilitate that personalized learning approach. So it's not just necessarily a way that you can set up the format of them choosing a project or a topic, which is kind of the way I've personalized topics in the past. But it's really using technology to get out in front of that and really kind of set that up more consistently for students to be able to find their own time, their own way to access that material and come up with their own ideas and their own responses to that. And as a result, it really has made for a very deep and profound level of student dialogue and discussion in my class. So I really appreciated what happened in week 4 with the article and really just with the focus on personalized learning that week. It kind of shifted my focus. The other cool thing was the role on digital citizenship, and this was something where it almost kind of seemed like the instructors read my mail a little bit, or was able to read my emails and kind of know what I've been struggling with, which is really creating my students that are working with this Patagonia trip that we have in the spring in a way to push them to engage as global citizens, and also kind of present a set of guidelines and expectations on how they should act, how they should behave, and really the viewpoint that they should kind of look at their whole collaboration with our partnering school in Neuquén, Argentina. So a little bit of background. This spring, we are going to work with the school in Neuquén. We're going to travel there over our spring break in March. We're going to meet up with the school in Neuquén, and we're going to travel alongside that school down to a remote part of Patagonia, where we're going to work with a Aboriginal school to work on turning a greenhouse into a hydroponic system, and we're going to work on trying to optimize a little bit of the solar energy system they have on site. The school we're working with is a liberal arts high school, so they don't have a STEM education. So our students are really traveling as the experts But we need to find out a lot of information about the stuff they have over there now. And so this has led to a lot of collaboration between my students and theirs. And so when you talk about digital citizenship, you kind of talk about, the do's and don'ts of Facebook. And that's kind of a big buzz thing here, not just in schools, but just with the up and coming digital natives, that have been on an iPad, playing since they were 3 or 4. And now they're at a place where this has become second nature, but maybe they haven't necessarily developed etiquette. But the cool thing, and so that was kind of the eye roll I had when I saw digital citizenship. Once again, just to be transparent, but the refreshing part about this reading was the fact that they were talking about the far-reaching global impact that students can have, and as a result, this has been something that's really helped me facilitate a more meaningful collaboration between my students and the students in Argentina, even now as we send videos. This is just an example. Allow me to click. There we go. Of one of the videos.
My name is Alexander and I'm interested in helping in engineering and aquaponics. My name is Jim Finley, and I'm excited in helping out with engineering, helping out with hydroponics and stuff like that. I'm Dawson Clark. I'm interested in solar and hydroponics.
My name is Mo Monster, and I'm interested in helping you guys build anything.
My name is Justin Carter, and I'm very interested in hydroponics.
Hi, I'm Colin Hubbard, and I'm excited to help build y'all an aquaponics system.
And I'm Olivia Calfee, and I'm part of the documentary team.
Alright, say hi, guys.
Hi.
So this was just kind of a first step that we were able to have as an introduction, and what came after that was many more videos, and we're still kind of in the process of sending those back and forth, and so. Let me. So it's been a pretty cool and profound experience just to take what I learned there in week 8 with the Common Sense Media staff K-12 digital curriculum, and really kind of let my students see that as a set of standards. And so I really just shamefully just straight up stole that resource and gave it to my students to ground to help them kind of give them a framework to communicate through as we continue to go through. And this and that Common Sense Media K-12 digital citizenship curriculum, the 912 link from that website is really something that I'm going to continue to show and refresh our team even all the way up until this March, where we take our week-long trip to Patagonia. Cool. Now, this is one of my favorite parts. Let's talk maker spaces. And so you guys see we're taking a small trip down the hallway where I have all my toys in my toy factory down here. We've struggled with what to call this room. And then one of the videos I've seen pretty recently gave me a pretty cool idea for it. But the Stanford D School, which is the School of Design there at Stanford University, calls their in-house fab lab the Product Realization Lab. And I really like that concept a little more than a fab lab, because it really means that ideas can become physical and they can become real tangible things. And not only that, but the idea implies that they should do so. They should become real and realized. And so this is our Product Realization Lab. We have aquaponics in the back. We have some pneumatic and hydraulic trainers, a large FANUC robot trainer. We have our 1,000-watt grow bulb, so it might be a little hard to see here. We have our yummy tilapia here, so we're going to have a fish fry at the end of the year. Yum. This is our ongoing solar golf cart design project. That sucker's going to have three 200-watt solar panels as a roof, self-charging. So in week 6's assignment on makerspaces, I got very excited because we love using some of the industry-sponsored equipment that we've received to prototype and mock things up on a large scale. But after reading that assignment and reading that article, big maker ideas don't require big ticket items. I feel like I was grounded in a very real way to be able to be kept into perspective on what other schools can expect to do and what other schools can expect to afford and have the resources to locally and globally. It really kind of took me to a more realistic and relevant place as far as being able to still challenge ourselves to think big with our partners, but still prototype small. And so that was a priceless article to come along, because I think everyone can prototype and can use a makerspace with a lot of industry support, with really cool equipment and different things like that. And from that angle, we are very fortunate at Cleveland High School. But to also limit some of those things and sit back and almost look at makerspaces from like a prototyping sandbox perspective, and really kind of taking some rudimentary objects, or even in a completely virtual environment as well on a computer, and be able to mock up some ideas and think out loud and think with your hands is also a priceless skill to develop. And so I really appreciate what week 6 makerspaces brought to me, because I had a completely different idea coming into that week. So flipping the classroom was a pretty cool week. Week 11. And flipping the classroom was cool, and I spoke about this a little bit earlier, just because when you talk about flipping the classroom, you really kind of talk about stacking most of the reading and research on the student's own time, and then letting them collaborate and spend in-class time on in-class equipment. So in order to do that, I have been kind of relying on that a little bit, but I think that week really pushed me. Week 11 really kind of pushed me to kind of push students online for most of their concept and idea building, and really expecting them to come to class with something to share from their readings and research online. This was a Vanderbilt article that was pretty interesting from the Vanderbilt Flipping the Classroom article website. So I appreciate it a lot. It also really aligned with the UPIC week that we had. UPIC is, we had 3 articles to choose, and I got to choose one from Robert Cosma. That was actually a peer-reviewed study where he talked about the collaborative nature of educators and how that also had some impact on their students in classroom environments. As a result, I think I almost got self-conscious while I was reading that, because I saw the lack of collaboration that I had with the educators around me, and kind of how I get so caught up with my to-do list that I don't really reach out to people here as I should. And so on the heels of our UPIC week, Robert Cosma's article, Technology and Classroom Practices, I actually challenged my students, or I challenged myself and my students along with me, to take 3 mechatronics automation trainers, and at first I collaborated with a couple of other professors and instructors here in town, and asked them the most effective automation assembly process that I could put together, and then I went and I handed that same concept, that information that I gained from speaking with some industry experts here at a local factory called Cormatech. And I pulled 3 student groups in one of my higher level automation classes, and I told them what I found out. That after reaching out and collaborating, I saw that a really cool process would be a sorting station, a product transmission station, and a palletizing station. And as a result, I had students that took 3 completely different trainers over the course of 2 weeks. And design them in one long trainer. So I have students that designed their own trainer for their peers and for other students in years to come. So this is still a work in progress because it's kind of turned into their final project. But we have a sorting station here. Our arm over here is going to sort 2 different colors and then kick out our refuse here. We're going to have our score bot is going to come down and it's going to reach across and grab one of the 2 colors that are sorted into these bins, and it's going to run it down here. And this is our palletizing plant. So it was very ironic that we already kind of had these as trainers, just standalone trainers, where this was sitting on one table. This was sitting by itself, all lonely, running back and forth on a gantry. And this was sitting on another table. And just the fact that I got self-conscious enough in my lack of collaboration from Robert Cosma's article and, the supporting evidence he saw in the positive impact on how you can collaborate as an educator and bring your students along with you with that process. And so I got self-conscious about that. And as a result, it's led to probably one of the more impressive things I've been able to see students do just because I started collaborating and I asked them to come with me. And so that really impacted me this semester, and it's still impacting my students. As you see, they're building this crazy like Franken trainer behind me. So, and I'm super stoked to see them do that. On top of looking at maker spaces and on top of looking at this lab and different things like that, there was one thing that I wasn't even going to mention today, but it was one of our last weekly assignments in looking at virtual reality programs. And so, and this is another thing. This is another one of those instances where I could have swore the instructor of this program was, or the instructor of this class was reading my emails or something, because we also just got gifted with a virtual PLC trainer that looks at different automation processes, and you can actually turn on sensors and different things like that. It has ambient noise, which is kind of funny. So let's see if we can fill up one of these mixing batches. There we go. We got some green paint coming up. We can even hit an E-stop and the system freaks out. So pretty cool. But the interesting thing about that is that I was asked to install this trainer for our students next semester the same week that I saw the virtual reality assignment from our instructor. And when I saw that assignment, I said, well, I'm not going to use virtual reality. I'm not going to use virtual anything because I have such a hands-on lab and facility. And then lo and behold, probably one of the pieces of equipment that students got the most excited about here in the last little bit has been this virtual PLC trainer, programmable logic control. So these kids totally freaked out about this thing. I don't know if it's from their gaming background or what, but I just thought I would also include that with kind of my course reflection, because there really kind of, as I mentioned, has been an eerie correlation week by week with the things that this course has introduced for me to read, research, and explore, and kind of the themes that I've seen in my class. So that's kind of all the readings that have impacted me this semester. But there's also been some technology and resources online that have also impacted me as well. So the first one up is going to be Wolfram Alpha. And so this was pretty neat because I had students research the weather in Patagonia. We are currently designing a food system. We're going to convert a greenhouse to a hydroponic system. And so I think weather patterns are going to be pretty darn important to research. And when students would share out the information they found, they'd kind of give me some Fahrenheit, some Celsius, and they'd tell me, the difference, kind of some very baseline things. And I felt like we needed more than that. And so, of course, being an educator / thief that I am, I also asked them to do the same research but they were outlawed from Google. They could only use Wolfram Alpha. And so Wolfram Alpha is a cool website because it is a computational search engine, just super neat. And so this is similar to what the students pulled up and were able to present to the class. We saw a lot of pretty surprising things in here. We thought that stuff would get super cold in Patagonia, but looking at these weather trends, we were able to really kind of see that the weather doesn't get crazy low, but it's also going to just hit a baseline average throughout the seasons that we can now design for with our hydroponic system. So after looking at our temperatures with this awesome, very vibrant data, we can make some very informed decisions as a class about what type of crops we want to take, what seed banks we want to take, or we want to encourage our Patagonian partners to implement in their system. And so this has become a tool, not just, not that I didn't just give out to kids as kind of a check the box and move on, hey, that's a new website. This has been something that's informing a decision that's going to be impacting lives, hopefully, and in a rural Aboriginal part of Patagonia after this March. So this is a point where a tech tool presented in this class could potentially be a life-changing experience, which is kind of cool to think about. The next kind of tech tool that we got, sorry if you're getting dizzy from me swapping back and forth, has been Desmos. And so Desmos has been a pretty cool graphical a graphical math and formulaic manipulator. So it's been pretty neat. It's been neat to play with, but I've been struggling. Here you go. I'll move in a little closer so you can see the one I have pulled up. So I've been struggling a little bit with how to implement this in my classes. And I struggle with how to implement this and GeoGebra at the same time. And mainly because we use some other programs like AutoCAD and Autodesk Inventor and Trimble SketchUp. And so as a result, when students get on something like this, they automatically see some things that they kind of want to start to struggle with because they're used to looking at a different interface. But whenever I tell them that this is something that they can use with these sliders, this is something that they can use to actually check some dimensions in real time before they actually implement them in their designs, they start to get a little more interested in it. So a real life example of kind of what we've gone through with this is I had a student that wanted to design a slot for our plasma cutter. So our plasma cutter cuts sheet metal out. And so he was struggling with how to create slots. I actually put him on Desmos, and I told him to experiment with the slider to see some of the mathematical relationships of ellipses and how they're different from slots. And so the more he played with these ellipses, with the sliders, being able to manipulate in real time, and then looking at the slot he had to create on the sheet metal bracket that he was kind of asked to make for our maintenance department, he came to me and he said, Coach Williams, I have a question here. Can Desmos do something where we can just put two circles and make a tangent through them? And I said, well, I don't see it in our, I don't see it in the example programs, but the beauty of Desmos is you get to create it from scratch. And so my student was able to do that, and through Desmos, he kind of cracked the code on how to create something in AutoCAD now, of how he could make his slot. And so I'm just kind of redoing what he already showed me, but he mentioned that if you make two circles, or if you make one circle that's at the outer dimensions that you want, you copy it and pull it the length that you want over here in AutoCAD, then now you can actually, from the center line, create your series of right angles to the outside tangent and inside midpoint. And now we have a perfect slot. So he kept running into, just by letting him really chew on this and wrestle this, he kept using a circle and making an ellipses, but it wasn't making this perfect slot that allowed you to have one consistent bolt size that was able to slide through. An ellipses, because it tapers so tight, the bolt would get caught before it really got to take advantage of the full travel. And so he was able to actually look and play with ellipses more in Desmos to really kind of see, like, hey, regardless of what I do with this ellipsis, it's never gonna have the same properties of this slot that this work order came in from maintenance. It almost needs to look like the end is a circle and the other end is a circle. And so that was kind of like that was a cool success story of using some of the tech tools in my own class, and how that was able to let a student visually manipulate a mathematical equation to get a physical end result that he was going for. By the way, that end result slot has been cut out on our plasma cutter, and if you can see it, it's right here, and he's working on getting the bends down. But so this is his new bracket. That was kind of a one-off custom order that he got to create on the plasma cutter to cut and create 6 of those things. So this reflection is kind of rolled in of how we've had converging themes from Math 618, and also kind of the 2 focus areas that my courses have been kind of following up to this point. And all these things, my sustainable human design in developing areas, targeting local industry skills and skill sets through advanced manufacturing, and some of the skills and strategies that I've been learning in Math 618 have all kind of had this really cool convergence this semester for me, and it's led to a little more than just another class to take to get a little closer to my graduate degree. But it's really kind of been an empowering semester for me, as I've been able to create some type of continuity between what I'm learning in class and what I'm able to actually demonstrate for my students. And so this has been something that is really going to stay with me, and I appreciate a lot of the thought that went into creating Math 618, the resources, the pacing, the flow, and all the way to being able to share these thoughts in this final, because I will have to admit that I would never be able to express how much this class has been able to influence and change my teaching pedagogy with any other method, style, of final except for this one. And so I'd really like to thank Professor Robinson for giving me the opportunity to share some of the things that I've learned and been able to teach as a result of Math 618 this semester. Thank you very much.